I'm a deep pool guy.
I'm a shallow pool guy.
See?
I'll be honest.
You're going to get bombarded with all of these things that you're like, oh my goodness. Some people
Exactly.
don't want anything in their pool. They want it wide open because all they want to do is play volleyball. More power to you.
Exactly. What if we extend that just a couple of feet into the pool and we have a rain curtain coming down and the homeowner loves it?
Use your designer as a resource.
Right.
If you don't know, like, ask the question.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. One more episode of Denali's Deep Dive Podcast. Here today again with Esteban.
Yes, sir. Happy to be here.
And man, we're going to talk about being intentional today, right?
Absolutely.
Want to go over like 4 or 5 things that are super important, not for us, right?
Correct.
It is important for us to lead people through these things, but as a homeowner, when you're going to design and build a swimming pool, you're going to get bombarded with all of these things that you're like, oh my goodness, what do we do?
Right.
And we could spend 3 days here talking about all of them, but I think if we break them down into 4 or 5 different things that are big pieces and parts of the pool, maybe a few people can come away and go, all right, I know that when I do this, I need to think about these things and I need to be intentional. I think that's the very first thing we're going to talk about is be intentional with everything that happens in your backyard, right?
Yes.
So we've talked about this a lot, but you're bringing you to the table.
Correct.
You're bringing a lot of times a spouse or a significant other. You're looking at who's going to use the pool, your kids. So I think it's super important to know yourself.
Correct.
But not just yourself, right?
Exactly.
You got to know the people that you're
You got to know your
you're
kids,
designing
your
and consort
spouse.
with.
Exactly.
Yeah, how they're going to use the pool, the things that you like.
Mhm.
Like we'll talk about things, and people will be like, "I have no idea if I want a deep pool or a shallow pool. Can you tell me what or why?"
Right.
Right. I think you have to get there
Yes.
before it's said and done. You
Mhm.
have to know, yes, I want a deep pool,
Right.
or I don't want a deep pool.
Right.
Any thoughts on how intentional somebody needs to be?
Yeah. So part of that is knowing yourself, really thinking on how are you going to utilize this pool. And so when we talk to homeowners, they'll say, oh, I want it to be 5 feet deep. And we can clearly see the homeowners 6'2". Their kids 6 foot tall. There's 3 boys. I'm like, are you sure?
Are you
Yeah.
sure?
Because what we want to plan for is how they're actually going to use the pool. In their head, homeowners, when they do their research, they kind of have an idea. And it's our job to say, okay, it's a good idea, but what if we did this, right? And so part of that is understanding how you're going to use the pool, how often you're going to use the pool, who's going to use the pool, what are we doing this for? Are we getting a pool just to lounge in? Are we hosting a lot? Do you see yourself as a family that has family over a lot?
Yeah.
And when that family's over, how they're going to use it. Just key things to keep in mind with intentions.
So we've already talked about it like 2 or 3 times now. Let's just dive into depth, right? So I think that's a huge one, and a lot of times I don't. So people that have had pools, maybe they're building their second or their third, get this. I just yesterday talked to a client who's like, yeah, this is like our 15th pool we've had. They've lived in a lot of different places between here and California and Canada, and they have a pool everywhere they go. And he's like, I know exactly what I want because I've had a bunch of these. But depth is such a huge thing. Like standard shallow end depth on a pool here in our market is like 3.5 feet, right?
Right.
And 3.5 feet is going to hit you about right here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so most of the time, people want a deep end and they want a shallow end for people to play in and whatever. But there's kind of there's a few options. Like you can do sports court pools that are shallow and a little bit deeper in the middle. People use that for volleyball sometimes. Mitch has a pool like with a for real breakaway basketball goal.
Oh, wow.
Because those boys play basketball, right?
Right. They know themselves.
They know themselves. One thing that I think people don't think about, you mentioned this depth of 5 foot. When you're going from shallow end to deep end, we have what's called the break or the transition. and that pool will go 3.5 to 4.5 usually, and then people are like, yeah, I want it to be," let's say they decide they want it to be 6 foot deep. You've got this no man's land
Mhm.
between 5 foot deep, 4.5, 5 foot deep, and 6 foot deep that is like, you wanna get out of there as soon as you
Right.
can, right?
Exactly.
Because we'll say I'm 5'11", right? With my boots on it, yeah. Right here is 5 foot for me.
Mhm.
I can't walk around or comfortably be
Right.
this, but my wife is 5'6", and so for her, this is 5 foot deep
Right.
right here,
Right.
right? It's like that doesn't work well for hardly anybody,
Right.
right?
What are you doing in there?
And then some people, they'll be like, "Hey, I want a volleyball pool, so we're gonna go 3.5 to 5 to 3.5." Well, how many people do you know that can play volleyball
Right.
at the net, right,
Right.
in this much water? So,
Mhm.
those are the kind of things that I think you need to think about. I'm a deep pool guy.
I'm a shallow pool guy. I'll
See?
be honest.
There you go.
And it comes down to lifestyle, I think, whenever my family growing up, whenever we would go to the pool or my wife's family, when we spend time in her pool, we always the deep end is fun. We always swim in it a little bit. At the end of the day, everybody's flocking to the tanning ledge or
Yeah,
to the hot tub, and we're all sitting together, just kind of talking. And that's how
yeah.
we use the pool. Um, and there's benefits to both of them. There is no wrong answer, but there is having to know yourself and how you do plan on using
Yeah, the wrong answer comes when you get to the end and the gunite is poured and you're like,
it.
"I'm pretty sure," or you swim in your pool for a month and you're like, "Yeah, this is not really, I didn't really think this was that important,
Mhm.
and it is that important to me,"
Exactly.
right? So you wanna, as a homeowner, flesh that stuff out
Yep.
before, you
Exactly.
finalize your design. I like the deep end because we jump off. We At our
Mhm.
pools, we've had either a jumping ledge or a big water feature on the end for the kids to jump in, and when I jump in a pool, I wanna go all the way under the water, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned something that's super important too in that is tanning ledges. So
Yes.
number 2, let's talk about steps, benches, ledges. There's all kinds of different depths
Mhm.
and uses for these things, but typically you have, if you want to do a tanning ledge, what we call a tanning ledge, that's got a max of 6 inches of water on
Right.
it. The reason is because there's code on how far you
You can
can
step down.
step down and hit your first step,
Right.
right? So there's that. We have one, we love it. That's probably one of the most used parts of our pool,
Yep.
right? Then you have what we call like a Baja shelf.
Mhm.
A Baja shelf will be a bigger shelf. It's kind of like a tanning ledge, bigger than a step, but it's
Mhm.
got 18 inches of water on it.
Right.
Typically, sometimes it's 2 feet.
Mhm.
It could be 30 inches, right? It just depends on what you want to use it
Right.
for. And then you got all these steps and benches into the pool.
Mhm.
And there is a gajillion ways to make all that stuff come together
Exactly.
into a swimming pool.
So it's funny you mentioned the tanning ledge. One of the biggest things about my wife's family's pool that we grew up going to is the tanning ledge is tiny.
Yeah,
And so it always ends up you can fit about 2 chairs on it, and then everybody sitting on the rim of it, sitting on the steps.
yeah,
And so my biggest thing is whenever I design a pool, I have the insight to let people know if you are anything like me, maybe let's make this a little bit bigger.
yeah.
Consider how you're going to use it. And one thing that I talk to people about is the trade-off there, and the perceived trade-off is when you put a tanning ledge in, oh well, that's eating up my pool space. Well, it depends
That
on how
is
you
pool space.
it's pool space, exactly. It's depends on how you look at it.
Yeah,
And so either we make the pool larger to make the swimming area larger, or you consider that perspective.
yeah. I think it's such a great point. A tanning ledge is pool space,
Correct.
right? It's just for a different use.
Exactly.
I'm of the school of you can't have enough places to sit in a pool.
100%.
Like, there's not enough benches that you can put in this thing. Now you have to strategically place them, in my opinion, so that they're not in the way,
Right.
right? But we've got a tanning ledge, a Baja shelf, a giant set of steps on the end. And I even have a deep end bench, like
Oh,
that's kind
really?
of set back. I got two in the 8 foot deep part of our pool. There's a bench that's got 18 inches, and right next to it, my favorite place in the whole pool to sit is a deep bench.
Oh,
This
that's
much
cool.
water. So I can actually sit like we're
Yeah.
sitting right now, and I can be totally submerged in the water and just sitting there, and I love it,
Nice.
right? So using that stuff intentionally, like we talked about, planning it intentionally
Mm,
so that you know what you want. Some people
exactly.
don't want anything in their pool. They want it wide open because all they want to do is play volleyball. More power to you, bro.
Exactly. Exactly.
So far we got depth, we got step benches, ledges. Let's talk a little bit about orientation of your
Yes.
pool.
So typically when you get out to the backyard, the most comfortable layout is, yeah, parallel to the house. Now, when we're shifting a little bit away from the house, you have a little bit more flexibility on where you can put it. Often we design pools that are not even connected to the house. We
Yeah.
can kind of put them out in the yard. And one big thing to consider is the orientation of the pool in relation to the house and pool in relation to the sun.
Uh,
What we want to try to plan for is typically so that we want to consider where the sun's going to land and how that's going to affect the use of the pool every day to the homeowner.
yeah. I think connected, not connected to the house is huge too. Um, our pool is disconnected from the
Mm,
house for multiple reasons, but we've got some slope, right? It's not drastic. It's probably 3.5 feet, but
okay.
you come off of our back porch and then it slopes down to the rest of the yard. We set it away from the house for a couple of reasons. One was that slope, so we could build the pool closer
Oh
to
yeah.
the ground a little bit. And two was for safety.
Mm.
So my kids all swim, right? My youngest is 7, but she's a little fish. But not everybody that we know is, right? We've
Yeah.
got friends that come over that swim. We've got family that still have little bitties.
Yeah.
And so putting the pool away from the house, we have the opportunity to put a fence all the way around the
Oh,
pool.
okay.
And the kids, we have a good sized backyard. So we can send kids out to play in the backyard and play football and play soccer and do all of those things. And the pool itself is still behind a pool fence and
Nice.
it's not connected to my back porch,
Right.
right? You mentioned the sun, that's huge. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about
Yeah.
that, but sometimes there is.
Right.
I think the other thing too is it is a lot of times comfortable to have that pool, like you said, in this in the same direction as the house
Mm.
sits. But we've done some really neat projects where the pool ends up looking like, yeah, a
Exactly.
reflection pond, right?
Exactly. I have one that
That looks
is
really cool.
right. I did one recently over in Leander where they've got these great big doors that lead out from the house, and they wanted to capture that view of the pool just parallel or lined up with the symmetrical with the doors.
Yeah,
And so we designed it so when you stand at that back door, and you can show this on the 3D software that we use, you can put yourself inside those doors and look all the way out, and it looks beautiful. And it came out the same way that we had planned for it. What would have been bad design and bad orientation is if so they got a tanning ledge and a hot tub if we put it on the other side,
yeah,
because then it'd be a destination to get to that hot tub. And so that comes into play with orientation too, is typically one thing I consider is when the homeowner walks out the door, and you mentioned the safety is you don't want the 8-foot depth to be the first thing they reach. Typically, you want to consider that if someone makes their way to the pool that wasn't supposed to and they fall in, it's, a tanning ledge of 6 inches or the shallow end at 3.5. But if it's 8 feet, it's a big thing to consider.
yeah. So orientation is huge, right?
Mhm.
And there's several things to consider there. I think the most important thing about the one that you just mentioned that was a kind of that reflection look and lining up with the house is they were super intentional. You
Yes.
were super intentional with
Exactly.
those back doors.
Exactly.
That's important. I think another one we'll talk about, Mitch and I have talked about this one kind of at length, but spa or no spa,
The
right?
big one.
I, if it's me, I'm not a huge human soup guy. I don't it's not comfortable for me to
Mm.
sit in 103-degree water.
Yeah.
I get tickly, like
Mm.
tingly and itchy,
Yeah.
and I don't find it that enjoyable.
Mm.
Now, what I do enjoy is being able to use that space in the dead of wintertime,
Yes.
right? And
Exactly.
it doesn't have to be 103. I can heat it up to 85 and I can
Mm.
still go out there and sit and play. My kids don't care. They swim 12 months a year, but I don't particularly enjoy sitting in the super hot water. My wife, on the other hand, she would not want a swimming pool with no spa in it.
Right.
So guess what? There's a spa.
And
I
you see that so often where it's like, we want the spa. I can't like I hear that so often. I can't have a pool without the spa.
yeah,
Or, oh, are you looking to get a spa? Absolutely. I can't have it without it. Um, on the other hand, I'm kind of the same way. I love a spa. And a lot of that comes down to how we grew up using our pool is we had a hot tub, we have a spa, and we have so many great memories in there. I graduated in the winter from college and it was, December and we fired that thing up. We were in there, we put it to the right temperature and it was where everybody ended up at the end of the night. And
yeah,
so the grill is next to it. And again, intentions, we plan for it to be the congregation space. You have the hot tub, the biggest piece of the decking, and then the kitchen, it's all we all intend it to flow easily to, if we're cooking hot dogs, I can reach back behind the hot tub that I love and have a great time. And so I'm kind of on that side is I love a hot tub. I love it on the pool. Kind of it adds elevation to the pool, adds a little bit of character. I love a good human soup,
Yeah, that's
enjoying
good,
us
good
getting
stuff.
there. Yeah.
So spa, no spa. I could, if it was up to me, it's whatever. If it's up to Amanda, she wants the spa,
Hmm.
and that's great, right? I think the last thing we'll talk about is water features.
Hmm.
There, I say water features or features period
Yes.
of any design. It doesn't have to be water features. You could consider an outdoor kitchen a feature. You could consider a cabana a feature. You could consider a fire pit or a
Right.
fireplace. Great example. This bench that we're on. We're set up in a little bit different spot today. We're usually on the other side of the pool, looking at the pool, but today the pool's this way, and we're sitting on this bench that was specifically created on this side of the pool. The folks at home can't see, but I'm looking out this beautiful view. There's a pond out there. Things like this are important to consider when you want to be intentional about where you put what
Right.
in your design. I think the first thing I'll talk about is water features.
Mhm.
I love making
Yep.
water move.
Same.
I've always felt like if you don't intentionally make water move in your swimming pool, it's this still body of water in the backyard and you're leaving something huge on the
100%.
table.
Exactly. I think, whenever the joke that I tell homeowners is in the dead of winter, whenever you're not using your swimming pool, it's a really expensive water feature.
A hundred
It's
percent.
sights and sounds, and it's beautiful. I'm a big fan of water features. I think especially because they're so malleable, you can push and pull and cut them so many different ways. I'm a huge designer of water features and lover of water features. You can have water. You have the deck jets, you have water shears, water arcs, you have bubblers that light up, you have custom features. One of my favorite features that I did recently was we have a cabana that backs up kind of right over the pool, and I said, what if we extend that just a couple of feet into the pool and we have a rain curtain coming down? And the homeowner loves it. We actually have it on our Facebook page and our all of our socials. You'll see there's this cabana that hangs over the pool with this beautiful rain curtain coming down, and it's exactly the effect that we had intended.
Yeah.
It's a remote button start. You go to your phone, press feature on, and boom, and it's got a light in it.
Yeah, that's super neat too. Lighting is another feature that's important. I like making water move. I designed a water feature, one of the things that was important to me and my kids go from 17 all the way down to 7,
Mm.
especially my middles, not so much my older teenager, but my middles, 12, 9 and 7, they want to jump in the water all
Yeah.
the time, and I love making water move. So we did a combination water feature slash jumping ledge
Mm.
where it's really cool. I had not seen it too many times, but basically it's a bubbler well. It
Oh, right.
mirrors the shape of our spa,
Cool.
but it's not as big.
Mm.
But it's got 3 color vision bubblers in it with lights in them, and
Nice.
they bubble. It's a couple feet above the pool, and it has a wall on the back of it that's a foot bigger that reflects light. It's all tiled. It reflects that light
Nice.
and that water. It's a tiered trickle down to the
Mm.
pool. We were super intentional of how we designed that
Exactly.
and what we used it for. We knew we wanted to jump in space, but we wanted to jazz it up with light and with
Yeah.
moving water. If you don't, some people want that swimming pool for very, very specific
Right.
reasons. I've got a client down in Austin. We built this small pool. Their feature that they had to have in that pool was for tether swimming. We put
Mm.
umbrella sleeves in the tanning ledge. There is a tile swim lane. They put on their vests, they
Cool.
attach it to the tether on the pole. There's no water features on that pool. There's no moving water, but there's a gas heater and a heat pump
Mm.
chiller and this tether swimming setup, and they swim in the pool 365 days a year.
That's awesome.
A great example of being very intentional about what features you want
Right.
in your pool so that you use it for exactly what
Right.
you want to use it for.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so we want it essentially the homeowners want, and we want this for them as well, is to get the most out of the pool year round.
Yeah.
Every day there's we touched on them swimming in the pool to their expensive lighting and water feature, but at least they're enjoying it. It's beautiful. And all of that comes down to knowing yourself, knowing how you use the pool, being as intentional as possible with all features of the pool.
And if you don't know, if it's the first time you're building a swimming pool, maybe it's the second time you're building a swimming pool, ask,
Mm,
right? There's a ton. The good thing about having been exposed to so many designs and so many people that we've worked for is like there's a million different ideas out there. And across the team,
mhm,
right? You've got a lot of different perspectives and points of view. We got a
right,
lot of collaboration and use your designer as a resource.
right,
If you don't know, like, ask the
yeah,
questions because we've had experience with a lot of people that use their pool in different ways,
mhm,
a lot of different features and ways to build and design these things.
right.
I think the most important thing we talked about today of all of this is you just said it, right? But it's worth saying one more time. Be intentional
Right,
with how you design your
exactly.
depth, your steps, your benches, any water features, whether you want a spa or not have a spa, how your pool is oriented to the house, and those kind of things. And there's a dozen more
Right,
things that you could think about. But
absolutely.
all right, man, appreciate your input.
Yes,
That
sir.
was a good conversation.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Esteban.
Anytime. Thank you. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. Please follow us on all socials. You can find us on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.